You ever have a fishing plan or a theory or an idea that you talk to your friends about, you have this big plan and you never execute on it? Well, that is literally what is going on right now. So, for any of you who have followed my channel for a long time, you know that the very first bass I caught was in a kayak at a campground, and I got hooked on bass fishing from that one fish catch. I decided to start filming my fishing, started filming my adventures. That's where Binya Outdoors came from. Well, we're back. We're at that body of water. I've been coming here every year for a long time with my family as a camping trip, but I've always had this idea. I always wanted to just book a site here to just be able to fish it without having the campsite, without having all the work involved with camping. I'm not actually staying here. I paid for a site that's right on the water. I'm able to launch my kayak right from the shoreline of my site, but I have no one here with me. I'm all by myself. I'm just here to fish my butt off for the next 2 days, and on top of it, it is fall. So those fish are in that feed up stage. They're going to be chewing, and hopefully we're going to get into some monsters. So let's find out if my plan, my theory, my dream of spending money on a site just to fish was worth it, or was it a waste of time? Well, there's the first one, guys. Nice little largemouth. They're hitting it kind of weird. I'm not going to lie. I had one on earlier that he just barely tapped it. I just barely had him hooked, barely didn't even get him. And I think they're just kind of lethargic still. I'm not sure if they're just hitting it with running with it instead of actually smoking that bait, but every hit's is like almost the same as if when it hits the bottom. So it was hard to tell that that was actually a fish involved. But that's the first one on a wacky rig, Berkeley Max Scent General. This is one of my go-tos when the bite gets tough. It just, June bug is a color that I have a ton of confidence in. And there's something about those generals, just the way they fall, the softness of them. They're just a really effective bait for locating bass. So starting off, guys, like I said in the intro, it is fall fishing. So what does that mean? Honestly, it doesn't mean any particular thing other than the bass are either on or off in my experience. So what I mean by that is those bass are either chewing like crazy. It doesn't matter what you throw at them. They're going to destroy anything you put in front of their face. Or they're super lethargic and you got to work to locate them. So the first thing I will honestly say is you should start with finesse, because if they are lethargic, you're going to catch them. And if they're chewing, you're still going to catch them. So what I personally like to do, I like to start with 2 plans of attack. I start with a finesse, wacky rig, and I actually will upsize my bite. So I know a lot of you have followed my channel, you know I like those rattlesnake worms. They're like a 4-inch worm. I actually prefer using a regular 6-inch Senko. This time of year, I find the bass are just looking for that bigger meal. The other thing I like to run is I go back to my spring style paddle tail. This isn't a belly weighted hook. It's actually the 6th Sense Axle swim bait head, something that I'll be doing a video on very soon, but that's the other option. So that's your moving and that's your finesse. Now I do have a Ned rig tied on, but I find that sometimes the Ned rig just doesn't play as well in the fall, simply because a lot of the places that I fish here in Vermont are so loaded with vegetation that the thing just gets lost once it gets down there. So that's why I prefer the wacky rig, because of the slow fall. They see it coming down and they hit it. Anything that has a weight to it, like a Texas rig even, tends to get lost in the muck in the bottom. So I tend to fish this style to start out. If that doesn't work, then we change gears and we go a little bit deeper, and I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. Ooh. I don't think I got him very good. I don't think he's very big. He isn't very big. Oh, you poor bass, man. All right, guys, He hit that thing, picked it up. It was so big he couldn't even get it in his mouth, guys. That was funny. Oh God, that was actually kind of a comical bite because he had it in his mouth and he couldn't really fight against it anymore. That was very interesting. Still all little guys though, no big ones yet. Oh, it's a little bit bigger one. That's better. That's better. I hope I got my hook good. There we go. It's a little bit better one on the wacky rig. Not a monster, but definitely a lot bigger than what we've been hooking. Nice little bass, guys. Really long guy. Not super big, but nice and long. Let's get him back in the water. Alright guys, well, as luck would have it, my audio got cut off in my outro, so we're going to do one of these styles. I ended up catching 2 more fish at the end of the day and kind of closed it out with 5 total bass. The pattern was pretty straightforward. Wacky rigged 5-inch June bug worm on the shoreline, and they did like the gold colored jig with a gold colored chigger craw. So that was really the only baits that I caught fish on. Nothing in the reaction category, nothing in the moving bait or power fishing seemed to work. They were pretty lethargic. Even when I caught fish on the worm and the jig, I had to dead stick it. I had to just leave it there and let them pick it up. It was not something where I could move it too much. They pretty much just were hitting it, I think, out of aggression just because it was sitting there in their face. A lot of that has to do with the weather. The weather here has been interesting. We've had a lot of rain in the last week, and we were coming off of rain for almost 24 hours straight. So I think those bass were still just a little shut down from the storm. The good news about that, though, is that tomorrow they probably will be chewing because the fact that they were shut down for so long, the forecast for tomorrow does call for clouds, a little bit of wind, 0 rain, so that pressure should be relieving, and hopefully those fish will be chewing. So stay tuned. That's going to be a really good episode. I'm getting up super early, going to be hitting the water, and we're going to get out there and see if we can catch some of the monsters that I know are in there. I want to thank you guys for coming along with me. I really appreciate you taking time to watch this video. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and as always, let's get out there, catch more fish.